It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Denver University's assistant women's soccer coach, Coach Stephen Cavallo. How are you doing today?
Very good, Brandon. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching on the college women's soccer side?
Yeah, so I knew growing up essentially that I wanted to be a coach. My dad was a coach. My grandfather was a coach. They coached at my grandfather was a really he's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame in Virginia. He was a high school wrestling coach for like 30 or 40 years. My dad wanted us all to wrestle. None of us wrestled. We had three boys. I'm the oldest of three. We all played soccer. So he learned soccer and started coaching us at a young age. So definitely came from a line of coaches. When I was in high school, I had kind of a vision of becoming a high school history teacher and coaching soccer at whatever high school I ended up at. And then I had the privilege of playing college soccer. And when I got to college and realized that, man, college soccer coaching is a job where you can just focus on soccer, 24/7. So that's when I really transitioned to wanting to coach at the college level. I had an opportunity right out of college to coach high school boys soccer, and then I've just kind of climbed the ladder. I went from high school soccer to club soccer to a Division III school in Virginia, Emory and Henry, where I was working with the men and women's program. That led me to a D2 job assistant position in Billings, Montana, where I started working full time with just the women's side. And I have been a women's coach, for the last basically decade on. So I wouldn't say I chose coaching on the women's side. I think it kind of chose me once I got the position at MSUB. I really found like my qualities as a coach really helped me be successful, coaching college age women.
What was that experience like for you playing college soccer for Frostburg and Warren Wilson?
Yeah, it was a good experience. I do have some regrets about it. I wish I had applied myself, maybe pushed myself a little bit more as a player. I didn't have like a long, a great list of accomplishments in college. I really enjoyed the team aspect. I think that's the biggest thing I can take away from my experience playing. Yes, I remember, some games here I was a goalkeeper, so I definitely remember some of my better saves that I made. But I think my most joyous moments that I reflect on, now 14 years off of my senior year of college soccer, it's the time with the team, the hangouts, the pregame meals, staying at the hotels if it was a road trip. So I really learned to love the team aspect and being part of a team and competing with other players, for a common goal to help the team win. And that's something that really has inspired me as a coach and is a central focus for me in, my coaching career and my feedback to the team.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like being an assistant coach on both the men's side and the women's side?
It was great. I'm really grateful to have had that opportunity at Emory and Henry. Each team is different. I always kind of share the story. My first day meeting the men's team at Emory and Henry, they all asked me, so where did you play? And then on the women's team, they all asked me, so like, tell me about your family. Do you have any siblings? They wanted to get to know more of the person, where I think on the men's side, it was more of like skill checking you. Oh, did you play at a good level? Oh, you played at a good level. You might know the game. So I found that a great opportunity to kind of see the different dynamic between, the men and women's side. There is a difference. But I think at the end of the day, players want to be in an environment where they feel fulfilled, where they're supported by their coaching staff. And like I said, I got a great opportunity right out of college to work on both sides and really enjoyed my time at Emory and Henry.
Of course, what was that experience like first going to Montana State to become an assistant women's soccer coach?
It was scary because it was truly a move across country for me. I had grown up on the East Coast pretty much my whole life between the DC area and North Carolina, and I think the closest I had gotten to Billings, Montana before was maybe Pennsylvania. So it was definitely a drop everything and move to the other side of the country and chase kind of where the round ball takes you. But it was a phenomenal experience at MSUB. I worked with a really, really good coach, Wojtek Krakowiak, who had a phenomenal playing career. And I think he really helped me grow in kind of my tactical knowledge of the game. He was good at running sessions. So I think I became certainly more of a deliberate coach, have more of a plan. And so, yeah, my time with Wojtek was good. I was with him for 3 seasons. And so I think that time as well with the team in that assistant position really allowed me to grow. I was a goalkeeper coach when I went out there, but certainly felt like I was given a huge responsibility with the admin side of things. It was just Wojtek and I, coaching the team. And so he gave me a big role on all the behind the scenes things that college coaching is. Being on the field is such a small portion of what we actually get to do as college coaches. It's more on the recruiting side, the fundraising side, the camps, alumni connections. And so I felt like I had a great experience at MSUB that really prepared me for eventually becoming the head coach at that same university, because Wojtek gave me a big role on kind of the behind the scenes and everything it takes to run a college soccer program.
What was that experience like getting promoted to become the head women's soccer coach there?
It was the greatest blessing. It was really a phenomenal transition. The current players on the team at the time were really supportive of me and going to the athletic director and becoming the next head coach there. And so I really felt right off the bat that I was indebted to the returning players and to the faith that they had shown in me. I certainly learned a lot during my first few seasons there. I mean, you always learn as a coach, but I feel like I was kind of thrown right into the fire. You always think you're ready to be a head coach, but I think every head coach will tell you you're not really ready until you get thrown in and have to deal with, player management, conflict management, all the things that come with, coaching a group of 25 to 30 players. And so the transition was awesome, to be able to stay in Billings, a university that I had worked for 3 seasons. I had really become integrated into the local soccer community there in Montana. It was, it's a small soccer community. So it was great to really get to kind of do my best and elevating the local youth level. And so the opportunity to then stay there as a head coach and ended up being there for another 6 years and almost a full 9 years in Billings, Montana. It was such an amazing experience for me. And the transition to being a head coach, kind of to answer, to a long-winded answer, is it was challenging. It really helped me grow. I had to look a lot in the mirror. We only won 3 games my first year. We won 4 games my second year. And when you're not winning or the results on the field aren't happening, you have to really look at yourself in the mirror. And I think it humbled me and it helped me really grow as a coach.
Of course, what was some of your biggest accomplishments as head coach for Montana?
I think reflecting on my time there, which I, did last year when I was, it's been a little over a year since I left MSUB. We elevated the level of the player that I think we were recruiting at MSUB. We had some very strong players come through that won many academic awards, that won some all conference awards, which was great. But I think at the end of the day, the best accomplishment was the environment that was created within the team culture. We really helped our players, I think, grow into proud and confident young women when they left our program. And so that's something I took a great pride in. Is my biggest joys as a coach come in and is seeing the freshmen join your team, and they're really quiet and shy, and then you see them kind of grow maybe into a captain role or certainly a leadership role as they develop in their 3 or 4 years with you. And so I'm really proud of just the environment and culture that the team had. I think our team did a phenomenal job kind of addressing and having an open conversations about mental health. I think that's one of the biggest gifts that we probably left the team when was the environment and the safe space that it was for our student athletes there. We did provide our players with 2 mental health days per semester. We had conversations about mental health. It wasn't like a scary or a faux pas topic in our program. I think it was something that I feel like our players, when I left, shared some personal things about how much that helped them, grow as people. And I'm really, really proud of that.
What was that transition like for you from going from being a head coach at Montana State to
Mhm.
coming to Denver and becoming assistant coach there?
Yeah, it's been a great transition here at DU. I wanted to become an assistant coach again. I also wanted to make the jump to the Division 1 level. I had been at Division 3 and Division 2 for essentially the 10 years that I had been in college coaching. So I knew a step up in level, and taking an assistant position was going to help me grow in a lot of areas that I felt like I had maybe plateaued in Billings, being a head coach there for 6 years. So it is challenging, of course, sometimes when you're used to being a head coach and you dictate your own schedule. If you have an idea, you can roll with it. I think that as an assistant, your job is to make suggestions to the head coach, to obviously have a voice and to provide feedback and differing opinions. But at the end of the day, when you're the assistant, you're not the one that's making that final decision in front of the team. And so there has been, it has been a transition to that. Not every idea that I bounce off of Coach Sitch is going to land with the team or that we're going to do. But the position here at DU has been phenomenal because Coach Sitch and then the other assistant, Coach Cass, we have such a great relationship. The three of us really respect and trust each other. And so Coach Sitch is a phenomenal leader, where she is open to ideas, open to suggestions, and doesn't need to be the final voice in everything that goes to the team. She gives us a platform to be ourselves as coaches and to kind of have a big role and a big voice on the team. And so that helps me feel like I'm really making an impact within the group, within our current player, within the current student athletes here at DU. And it's been a great transition to be an assistant here. That's for sure.
For you, what was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto that soccer field for Denver University?
It was amazing. It was a preseason game against LSU, a team who had been to the tournament, the year before, and we ended up getting a big 1-0 win with a kind of a later a goal in the back end of the second half. That was obviously a huge pump up moment for the team. So coaching at DU for me was reflected on all the work that I had put in to get to that position, where you're playing against the LSU, a team that has, it's a household name. Everybody knows, LSU. So it reminded me of, starting my coaching career in Allegheny, Allegheny High School, coaching boys varsity, making a little over $1,000, for the season, thinking that it was the greatest coaching position that anyone could ever have. And just being able to kind of climb through the ladder. So I definitely, one of my favorite coaches or an idol of mine is Jim Valvano. Never obviously got a chance to meet him, but one of the things that really stuck with me, I heard him share once in a speech, is it's important to always remember, where you were, where you're currently at, and where you're going. And so certainly as we were preparing for LSU, my first, time on the sideline as a Division 1 coach, I absolutely remembered where I was, and the kind of the humble beginnings with coaching that I had, and just staying true to myself and staying true to my passion. And, like I said, trying to climb the ladder in coaching. And so it was definitely a moment where I reflect with a bunch of pride, and, and that we're almost, approaching year 2 with DU, and looking forward to many more victories against big time teams for sure.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a coach versus for your players at DU?
Great question. For the players, we are typically doing, a pregame meal. If we have an afternoon game, we're obviously having a pregame breakfast. If we have a, 7 o'clock night game, we're doing kind of a late lunch, early dinner. And so for the players, they're meeting with the team for the first time at dinner, probably that day, or the team meal. And then they get into their own routine, whether that's going to the athletic training room before the game to foam roll, to do whatever treatment they need, getting to the locker room to have a little dance party and all the pump up musics and things like that. And then, we meet with them about an hour before kickoff, go over, last few words of wisdom before they take the field for warm ups, and then they warm up and then we play. For me as a coach, we come in and we just finalize kind of what our plan is for the day. We've obviously talked in the week build up to how we're going to play against this team. What are our, areas of emphasis? So we just kind of hash that out one final time before, set the starting lineup one final time before we, meet with them. And our job obviously is to set up the field for the warm-ups, get the VO camera, huddle camera ready for us to film the game. The game days, they're not as intense as an assistant as I was as when I was a head coach. I think as a head coach, you can often just overthink, and create 10 different lineups in your head. I have noticed as an assistant, like I said, it's less responsibility on me in that regard. And so for me, game days have become much more relaxing than I ever had as a head coach. But yeah, so that's kind of our typical game day. Once the game is over, we're cooling down. At DU, during our home matches, we have post-game barbecues that the families put together, which is really just a great time to come together as a team. Whether we win or lose, we're meeting once more after the game with the families, doing the barbecue, and then everyone kind of goes, for the rest of the evening.
As a coach, what have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish so far at DU?
Yeah, I think with the three of us on staff, we all joined the program kind of last minute. Coach Stitch got hired, I think mid-June, was in Denver in July. I got to Denver a couple of days before preseason started. Our other assistant cast, I think, literally came the night before the season started. So last fall was really just about trying to set our first set of culture and team standards within it. It's really difficult when you are meeting the team for the first time on the first day of preseason. And so I think the fall season for us was about laying out how we're going to play, the change in formation, a change in style. This spring season in particular has been a lot slower. We're not traveling. Obviously, we got some spring games, but we're not traveling and playing as much as we did in the fall. And so I think we've been able to, as a staff, layer in more of the team culture and our just getting to know the players more as people on a more of an individual basis. I think some of the things that I've seen us accomplish so far at DU has been a change in the team culture, the team attitude, the team morale, their mentality, their desire to be successful. I mean, DU has always been a very strong program. We took over a very, very strong team. We're very fortunate for that. But I think we're elevating the culture of the group, the way that we communicate with each other. I think some of the things that I've been able to help with is on the recruiting side. I take a big role with recruiting here. I really enjoy that side of college coaching. I enjoy, watching games and then identifying players and meeting them and meeting their families and trying to sell them on the things that we're passionate about here at DU. So I think I've helped us hopefully land some top players, or certainly had a role in us committing some very strong players for the class of 24, the class of 25, and obviously and then some. I think the IDPs that we do here, those are individual development plans. I've had an opportunity to work with the strikers and the wingbacks in our program. We kind of break it up by position among staff, but I feel like I've been able to really help some of our players grow in confidence in those areas. That's a huge joy for me as a coach. I mentioned that earlier, Brandon, talking about the confidence that you try to help players grow, not just with who they are as soccer players, but obviously people off the field. And so I think I've helped with that. And I think I'm a positive, happy go lucky kind of individual. I try to bring energy into every room. And so I think I've helped always try to bring a positive smile to the day within the team and within our staff.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to help to build for Denver University's women's soccer program?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for us is always putting the team first. We really, we coach 32 players on the team. With soccer, only 11 can start. Typically, Division I level, you're maybe going 6, 7, 8 players into the bench. And so, I think one of the biggest things that we've tried to help, all of our players see is, your role within the team is so valuable and so important, regardless of the minutes that you're getting. And so, I think one thing that's big for us as a staff is always putting the team first. That's what's great about being part of the team. You're working towards something that's bigger or bigger than yourself. And so I think that's been a huge impact that we've made. We're really starting to hear the players speak more amongst themselves on some of the cultural things that we're layering in with them. Our kind of core values here at DU are grit. So we talked about and grit is growth mindset. R is respect. I is impact. Everybody on the team can make an impact. And then T is teamwork. And those are kind of the core values that we, talk about on a daily basis with our players, so that they're always always recognizing, understanding that every day they either add to the team culture or they take away from the team culture. And so I think what I have seen with our team is just more of a collective group. I think they're finding the ways to give good feedback to each other, positive, I call it active coaching. They used to call it constructive criticism. And I told them, change the language. Criticism, when you say that, automatically has a negative connotation. And so you're not criticizing a teammate if you're telling them, if you're giving them feedback on the field, you're coaching them. And so we call that active coaching here at DU. So that, again, just trying to change their mindset a little bit. Words matter. And so we're really trying to, again, get them to think about things in a different way that maybe they've done before through their, high school and club careers. And like I said, I think we've got a really, really positive team environment right now. We've got players really showing up on optional days or days off, putting in extra work. And, those are the things that will really pay off as we, want to be a team that's consistently competing every single year for conference championships and playing in the NCAA tournament.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
Yeah, so our conference, we're in the Summit League, so we're playing against North and South Dakota, North Dakota State, South Dakota State. We have Oral Roberts in our conference, Omaha, University of Missouri, Kansas City. Gosh, I'm trying to think if I'm missing out anyone. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone there. I think there's 9 teams in our conference, including us. So we're kind of regional based. Like I said, we're in Colorado. We're the one Colorado school. We get to go to Missouri, we get to go to Nebraska, and then we have trips to North and South Dakota. The Summit League works where one year you're playing the team at home, and then the next year you'll play away. For example, we went to North Dakota this year and we played away at North Dakota State. So this upcoming fall, they're going to come to us. And so, yeah, we get, I think, 8 Summit League games, and then we're filling our non-conference schedule with about 10 to 12 games in there. There's some exhibitions as well. What's great about DU is we're playing a lot of, I guess you would call it now, Power 4 schools. This past fall, I mentioned the LSU game. We played Texas Tech in preseason as well. And then in our non-conference last fall, we played against North Carolina State. We played Oregon. We played Marquette. We played Colorado, Boulder. And so we really get to play some top programs, in our non-conference schedule, which again we're using as a preparation tool for our team. And the goal is of making it to the conference tournament, winning the conference tournament, and then making it to the NCAA's, where we know we're going to get matched up in the first round, against a really, really strong, Power 4 competition.
What is that like? Obviously, playing teams like LSU, NC State, and Oregon, those non-conference teams.
They're great for us. We're the underdog, so our players are really, really, they really get up for those games. They play with a chip on their shoulder. They have a point to prove, in those matches. And so I think those games bring the best out of us. And we talk to our team about that, elevating to the competition, that we believe that we're just as good as them. And this past fall, we got some big time wins. We beat NC State, we beat Oregon, we beat LSU. And so we were close in games against Colorado Boulder, and against Texas Tech. And so I think those games really give our entire group a ton of confidence. Even if we don't end up on the winning side of them, we're close in those matches. We have moments where we're, dominating possession or having a better spell in the game. And so I think those are huge confidence boosts, for our players.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like North Dakota comes to home versus going away to teams like South Dakota?
That's a good question. I think we have good support here at DU. For one, we're in a hotbed for soccer. Denver is, really, really quality players. Youth players coming through Denver or certainly through Colorado, and so we do get a lot of fan engagement with younger, club teams. Every single home game we have. A team of ball girls that, their whole families will come. And so we definitely have some good support, for our games. Certainly when we're playing against, like we played at home last year against Colorado, we probably had over 1,000 people in the stands. So not every match is like that. We'd love as a staff for us to grow to that point where we're getting that sort of level of consistent fan engagement and people in the seats. But the facilities that we have here and the location of Denver has really helped with attracting people to come to our games. When we're on the road, I mean, we're playing in some. I mean, I think every facility. We've not seen every facility yet in the Summit League, but the facilities are nice. Whether it's grass or turf, we're playing, in some really cool places. I did forget St. Thomas. I knew there was going to be one Summit League team that I forgot, so I was answering your question that reminded me of St. Thomas. They're in Minneapolis, so I think the road games with us. The biggest difference is, of course, the difference in routine, right? We're waking up in hotel rooms versus waking up, on campus or and certainly in our own homes. And so managing kind of the time on the road, the routine, we want to try to keep everything obviously as close as possible to what we have at home. Because we've been very successful at home. I mean, we were good on the road too last year, but coming to Colorado, obviously the elevation too in Denver also helps. But the biggest thing for us on the road is just trying to keep the team together and keep it as consistent as possible. They're often missing school when we travel, certainly through conference play when school has started. So making sure that there's time for them to, have, study hall or homework time on the road so that they're not stressing about, that they didn't get enough work done, when it's a match day or we're getting prepared for a game. So trying to keep everything as consistent as possible. We have great fan support. We've got players from kind of all over the U.S. And so, when we did play at St. Thomas, we even got like a barbecue in after the game away at their place. So we have good support from the families that will come and support us. We won't always have a ton of people in the crowd, supporting DU, but we do have a great parent group that does travel well and always gives us and shows love on the road.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes? And as a coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes?
Yeah, great question, Brandon. The biggest thing, obviously, when we go out and watch tournaments is there have to be a skill level that's going to help our team win. There's tons of great players, throughout the U.S. And so it's easy to identify, key quality soccer players. The more important step for us is when we see that there's a player who's at the level that can help us, it's getting to know who they are as people. We're a family here, and so it is like bringing someone new into your family, and so we want to make sure that they're a player who's going to fit our team culture, our team dynamic, that is like-minded. At the University of Denver, we have about 7,000 undergrad students. We don't have football. And so we are kind of a niche school. We're a private school. And so we're looking for players who are, if a player wants to go to a big university that has big D1 football, we're not that school or university for them. And so it's making sure that we're finding the right kids that are going to be the right fit for us, both within the soccer program, but also academically. University of Denver is a very challenging, a high academic institution. And so we recruit strong student athletes that, we need to know that they're going to be successful here at DU, and we're not setting them up for failure if they maybe can't handle the rigorous workload of being a Division I student athlete. And so for us, it's like I said, it's identifying the talent because they've got to be at a certain level to help us win. But more importantly, once we've identified that talent, it's getting to know who they are as people, getting to know their families, getting to see if it's going to be a right fit for us. And also if we're a right fit for them, it's a two-way street, of course. In terms of, you had asked about like the recruitment process. Right now we are, we're finishing up our class of 2025. Those are current high school juniors. We are pretty much sending recruiting mailers out to our top 2026 players. We are able to start contacting them in middle of June, June 15th of this summer. And so when we go to tournaments, we're often looking at 2008, 2009, which is kind of crazy to think these are 15 and 16-year-olds. It's a little bit different than Division III and Division II, where you're recruiting more of the junior and the senior year. So we're just trying to identify our top prospects as much as possible, see if there's a possibility that they could come to a summer camp that we're hosting, an ID camp. And once they're of recruiting age, like I said, it's getting to know them. It's bringing them out on campus with their parents, getting to spend time with them, have them spend time with our team, and like I say, really see if it's going to be a good fit for everybody.
As a soccer coach, what's it like seeing those freshmen put on that Denver University soccer jersey for the first time?
It's awesome. It's a culmination for them of years of hard work and sacrifice, both for them as players, their parents, traveling across the country, to get them from soccer tournament to soccer tournament. So it's a very proud day for us as coaches during the recruitment process. And when we get a commitment, I like to remind the players that the journey is only beginning. I feel like sometimes players, because they're in club soccer, they're always thinking about making the commitment to college, and then when they finally make that commitment, they can almost be tricked into like, oh, okay, I've set my goal, I've done what I've accomplished to do, which is to become a college athlete. Once you make the commitment, the fun is only beginning. And so it is great to see freshmen come in this year, or this past fall at DU. Our starting goalkeeper was a freshman. We ended up with the freshman of the year in conference, Lee Moritz. So it was great seeing two freshmen right off the bat for us, get heavy minutes and contribute significantly to the team's success. And so we're not a coaching staff or program that doesn't play freshmen. Our job is to put the best 11 players on the field. And if you're a freshman and you're in that role, kudos to you. So it's definitely fun watching the freshmen grow. It's hard as a college soccer player when you're a freshman because you're usually getting to campus before classes start. You're immediately into college soccer as college life is beginning. Some spring sports, the freshmen have more of a transition period in the fall where they're not playing in their competitive season. They can kind of get their feet wet a little bit more. For us, the freshmen are thrown into the fire, and our job as coaches is to support them and to manage the stress that they're going to be feeling as they're potentially moving away from home for the first time, living in the dorms with maybe a random roommate, a random teammate. And then of course the stresses of college soccer and what that can, become. So again, our job as coaches is to help walk them through that, remind them that it's a hard transition. Everyone is going to struggle a little bit their freshman year. Even if they're playing a lot or are not playing, it's such a big adjustment to, your life as a high school student living at home with your parents.
What is it like getting to see those seniors put on that uniform for the last time?
I always have described senior day as like the most joyous day of coaching, but also the saddest. So the senior day is what we as coaches have set out to accomplish for them, is to have them come in as freshmen, play for maybe 4 or 5 years, potentially with a COVID year, or with maybe there was an injury or a redshirt year in there, but then to graduate and to move on to their next calling in life. So I'm very proud of the seniors that we honor on senior day. It's a sad moment as a coach because it does mean that your time with them is running out. There's an end line there that once they cross, you're no longer their coach, they're no longer coming to practice and things like that. And that can of course be sad when you really invest a lot of your time and energy into them as people and as players. So I am proud of our seniors every single time they get to that stage, because it's certainly not easy, college soccer, and fighting through it and being at the same program for 4 years. I mean, I'm sure you're of course aware of the transfer portal landscape and how oftentimes players can maybe move from one program to the next. And so when you get a senior that has been with you for 4 or 5 seasons and has came in as a freshman and it gets that senior day, it's absolutely a very proud moment for you as a coach, as I'm sure it is obviously for their parents and for the player themselves. But also it's a sad day as a coach, because like I said, that they're eventually moving on and you're not going to have them within the team for much longer.
As a coach, what's it like seeing those seniors go on and playing professional soccer, whether it's the NWSL or going to the national team representing U.S. women's soccer?
Yeah, that's been a huge transition for us here at DU. At the Division III and Division II level, it's just really, really challenging for players to go on and play at a professional level. We did have a couple players at MSUB go overseas and maybe get some opportunities to play while also pursuing a master's degree. But at DU, we know players that we have currently coached, but the University of Denver has several alumni that are playing in the NWSL. We've had a couple come back to campus, or maybe when we were on the road, we were playing in their town. And so absolutely, it's phenomenal to see players. Like I said, we're a mid-major school. We're not going to have they're not going to have the resume of competing in like an ACC or an SEC, game in and game out. And so for those players at University of Denver, they're quality players and they could absolutely play in those conferences. But for them to kind of overcome maybe a stigma about being at a mid-major school and being able to find themselves on a professional roster, whether it's here in America in the NWSL or potentially overseas. It's a great reflection for the program and the recruitment of that caliber of a student athlete. And so yeah, it's definitely a very proud moment for the program. Absolutely.
Of course, what are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
Yeah, for us, it's to be consistent and always competing for a Summit League championship. We've come close the last few years. Last fall, we lost on penalties. The year before we got there, they lost on penalties in the conference semifinals. Denver has done a great job winning regular season titles. The next gap for us to narrow is for us to win the Summit League championship and get the auto bid into the NCAA tournament. And so that's a huge goal for us as a team and as coaches. For us to get there, we don't just say like, hey, we want to win. Everyone says that. So we really look at the day-to-day life of what it means to be champion minded, for us to get to that level. What are the daily habits that we all need to buy into, that we all need to live out for us to give us the best opportunity to obviously win the championship in the fall. Hopefully we're hosting out at our fields again, and winning it in front of our home fans, because we've come very close the last couple of years. So that's definitely a goal of ours. As we get to know the team more and continue to bring in our recruits in the future, I think that's just going to only help drive the team culture and the confidence that we all have in what we're doing. And so I think that's a huge next thing for us and excitement for us is as we continue to recruit and bring our own players into the program. And by no means is that any sort of knock on the players that we coach now. They're phenomenal athletes. They're great people. But it is exciting when you do get to start to recruit and start to build your own recruiting classes. And that's what we're actively doing here at DU.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college soccer?
Oof, that's a good one. I think the biggest advice that I can give to those freshmen is to understand that it's going to be challenging, and it's not like challenging in a scary way or challenging in a way that they're not able to overcome. But I think it is a huge adjustment when you are coming to college soccer, whether you're D3, D2, or D1. You're often the best player on your high school or club team, and then you come to a college soccer program and you're probably more towards the bottom of the team, or you're trying to really establish yourself. And for a lot of players who have always kind of been the key player on their team, that can be a huge adjustment for them. And so for me, the advice would be to really take it day by day, to see value in every bit of what makes you a student athlete, the person, the student, and the athlete, not just your playing time, because sometimes it can be hard for freshmen to find playing time. And so that to me would be the biggest advice, is just take it day by day, start to really see your value in all facets of what it means to be a player on a college soccer team, and to enjoy it. It's you're living out your dream of, you always wanted to play college soccer. And so when you actually get there, really focus on the positives of it, and be ready to be flexible and to like I said, to be flexible and be ready for change, because it does happen.
What advice would you give those players out there looking to play on the NWSL or the U.S. women's national team?
I think the biggest advice is you have to kind of have a crazy amount of passion for it. I think a lot of players dream of playing at that level, but there's such a finite amount of players that actually make it to that level. You have to be obsessed with your soccer, basically. Yes, everyone deserves days off, but players that are making it to the pro level are always thinking about training, always thinking about how they can improve, watching film, watching games. And so I think that is such a huge piece of it, is also being open-minded and willing to work on potential weaknesses. We do have a couple players in our program who have expressed to us that they have a desire to play at the next level, hopefully maybe in the NWSL. And so our head coach, Julianne Sitch, actually was an assistant coach for the Chicago Red Stars. She was a professional player for, I think, 10 to 15 years within the U.S. And so she's a phenomenal resource, of course, for them, because she knows the game and what coaches and general managers are looking for at that next level. level. And so being open-minded to, hey, you say you want to work at, you say you want to be a pro player. Well, for you to make those steps, here are the areas that you absolutely have to work on right now to get better, to try to get yourself in a position to get drafted or to make a team. And so to me, I'm still learning and how I can best help prepare our players for the next level if they do have a desire to play professionally. But I would say it takes a crazy amount of passion and drive and willingness to sacrifice to make it to the next level.
What advice would you give those players out there looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
I really like this question. I think the biggest mistake I have potentially seen with players, maybe I had worked with them at the club level in Billings, is just because you're a great player doesn't automatically mean you're going to be a great coach. I think players sometimes get frustrated when, especially if they're maybe coaching youth players, maybe high school players, maybe even college players, when they're not able to accomplish or perform some of the technical abilities that they might have been able to perform as players. And so I think the biggest advice I can give to anyone that looks to get into coaching is, in my opinion, coaching is almost all about communication and player management. What you know as a coach is obviously very important, but if you are not able to successfully communicate with your student athletes or your players, if you cannot make your players feel like you care about them or that you value them as people and as soccer players, you can be the greatest tactician in the world, but they're not going to listen to you, or they're not going to follow suit. So I think communication and being able to be vulnerable and being honest is such a great piece of being a successful leader, whether that's in coaching or just in life in general. And so to me, it would be really working on trying to meet if you're going to become a future coach, no matter what team you get, trying to meet the players where they're at, set goals for them. Of course, you can set high goals, but be able to work with them on a day-to-day basis with proper and positive communication to help them get there. That would, to me, I think communication would be such a huge advice part I'd give.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the Denver University's women's soccer program?
Yeah, great question. So I'm on Instagram at stcavallo, STCAVALLO. And then the DU women's soccer team, we are on Instagram, Twitter, we're on Facebook. If you just type in DU women's soccer social media on Google, you'll be able to find, I don't remember off the top of my head, all of our different handles across the various platforms that we're on. But we do have our accounts that we consistently update on, like I said, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Thank you again, Coach Stephen Cavallo, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Denver University as the assistant women's soccer coach.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate the opportunity and the chance to speak with you today, and appreciate you giving a platform for coaches across the U.S. and not just soccer, but obviously across all different athletics and sports. And so I just, again, appreciate your willingness to meet with me and for reaching out to set this up. So thank you. I've enjoyed our convo.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Stephen, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.